Hello and welcome back to SML Total Access. I'm Primetime Triple Zero, joined by Matt and filling in for Dan. Drumroll, please. Mad Bomber, what's going on?
Oh,
How's it
excited to
going?
Yes,
be here.
yes, it is great time in SML as we are closing in on playoff time. And let's start off with first down. Talk a little bit about playoffs. Who has a better chance of making the Super Bowl? And we wrote this before Bomber actually was going to join us. Dump or Bomber? And Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is a tricky question because I think could go either way. You're looking at Dump, who's technically undefeated. His only losses were a forced loss to Paulie and a forced loss to me. So he hasn't lost a user game this season, but he also hasn't played anybody. So that doesn't help him much. So yeah, he has 11 wins, but hey, in the SML, a win is a win. In my opinion, there's no such thing as an easy win in the SML. And I think for Dump, really, he's just got to beat Prime, and he's got the X Factor running back in Jonathan Taylor, who can dominate a game and maybe win a dirty game like that. But the way that you're playing Prime, I just don't know if Dump can get over that hurdle, if he can even get there. And then on Bomber's side, he's he's 10-3, he's the one seed, but he's got two elite players in QP and Faz in his conference, and then Dom, who's sneakily good. But I'm gonna go with Bomber just because he's proven he could do it. I know Dump made that one Super Bowl a while ago with the Cardinals, but I think it's Bomber. I think Faz is probably a little bit checked out in this final season, and I think this is a good chance for Bomber to make the Super Bowl.
Bomber, what do you think?
So it's Matt kind of brings up a good point. It is tough to decide because I think Dump has easily the easier path as far as quantity goes. It's really just you in his way. Matt could stop him, maybe RD. Straw Black's actually looking really good. So there's some guys there that could stop him, but there's not as then QP, then Dom, where in the NFC it's going to be multiple kind of hurdles to get over. So I think Dump has the easier path. Um, so better chance. I would say Dump probably has the better chance. But if it was more likely, I think it's more likely I would be able to get there as opposed to Dump because I just don't see him getting by you.
Yeah, it's interesting when I look at it. I do think that Dump would have an easier path considering all the opponents he would play versus Bomber. But I think that when I look at the playoffs, obviously the skill level of your opponents matter, but where is your mind? And I think Dump's feeling confident right now. He is. But I think Bomber's pretty focused on winning. So if I were to pick one, I would say Bomber, and I think it's close. I think it's close, and that's why it's a discussion, obviously. And let's not discount Dump what he's done this season and how he's won these games and what he's doing with the running game, especially. Um, if you can run the ball in the playoffs, you can win a lot of games. I do think Dump has a legitimate shot at doing it if he stays hot. But look, Bomber is focused right now, and I think there's a little bit of chink in the armor of QP, especially after he lost that Super Bowl. He seems like he's been defeated since. Faz, since he lost in the playoffs against QP that year, has been never been the same since he lost Gunslinger. So yeah, I think this is Bomber has a better chance of doing it. Watch out for Dom though. Dom might be the most dangerous of them all right now. He's looking like he's back in rhythm. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun playoffs. It really is. Um,
Yeah, I think the other thing though, it's saying Dump has confidence. I don't think Dump's ever been at a loss for confidence, and it hasn't really helped him
yeah,
too much.
Yeah.
So maybe that might be more of a kind of something to get in his way rather
that's
than
true.
something to help him.
That's true. He's always confident. Moving on. This usually happens. It seems like every cycle, but what do you guys make of force wins kind of being handed out or more likely to be handed out in the final season? And Bomber, we'll start with you.
So I think it's a combination. It came up in chat this morning, and I think it's just a combination of it's summertime, the weather's warmer, people have their vacations, school's out, and then on top of that, you've just got Madden fatigue. Maybe not necessarily Madden as a whole, but Madden 23. We had the blip again. We've had issues with it not saving games. People are just worn out, and I think a lot of people that took the same team over and over again. Um, I said it before we blipped or before we redrafted that running it back with the same team was rough. And I think maybe we're seeing some of that in these force wins where people just don't care anymore. They're ready for it to be over. But at the same time, you got guys like KJ who's got maybe one win, and he gets up at 8:30 this morning in a hotel to play me. So I think it's kind of a combination of the two things, but a lot of it may be individual personalities as well.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the summertime and everyone's got stuff going on. I mean, me as a person who never has anything going on, we all know that. I've had to give out forced wins because I haven't been available. But, that said, Bomber talked about Madden fatigue, and that's certainly a thing. But th Prime, you didn't just randomly say, "Oh, okay, guess what, guys? We're going to play until the end of July or August." We always do that. You know that's going to come. So that's a commitment you made to the SML. If you're out of town and you can't play, it's understandable, right? It happens to all of us. Dan's even out of the country. I mean, it happens. But what I hope isn't happening is, it's the last season. I don't really care. I could play, but I don't really want to. That's a disservice to your opponent. That's a disservice to the league. There's teams fighting for playoff spots. We'll talk about in a second that might miss out because their opponents are playing guys that are fatigued and giving out force wins that on games that could be played. I lost Tua for 4 weeks in a force win or a force loss. Now that wasn't my opponent's fault or my fault, but the force losses and those just don't help anybody. If you can play, respect your opponent, respect the league, play your game. If you're out of town, you're out of town. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, when you look at games force wins, I've gone through them and I kind of keep an eye on that stuff. And about it seems like about 90% of our force wins this year have been because of just vacation, or this guy's traveling, or this is going on. And we are understanding about that stuff. Obviously, this summertime. And then you do have the 10% where it's fatigue or burnout. And Bomber, correct me if I still think we do evaluations on game scheduling. Do we not do that still?
We do. We do it on scheduling, and if I remember right, last cycle we did it as far as like overall activity
Yeah.
for the last one. So guys that gave out a lot of force wins, because there were a few, they got docked a
Yeah.
little bit for the activity.
Yeah, and part of your game scheduling is, hey, are you showing up to play your games? I mean, and so that's evaluated. And I know people get like nervous of their spots like 2, 3 seasons in, and then they complain about a point or two here or there. Well, but then right at the end you could lose 5 or 6 points, and a lot of time these points are very close. You see it all the time, and they're so close that losing 5 points could drop you 7 picks in the draft. I mean, it's that close. So we'll see how it turns out. Obviously, it's up to you guys to play your games, and it's up to or do your best to communicate. And look, we're not going to dock people for going on vacation for 4 days or something. We're just not. But if we see a trend, and then yeah, we're going to look at it. Moving on to third down, Straw Blacks was hyped up coming in the SML from Primer champion, I believe. He's made multiple Super Bowls in Primer. Came in, started off flat. We talked about him on this show. We were like, hey, we don't know about this guy. And he seems to have flipped a switch, I think. I don't know. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, it's funny. We blew him up on this show. I think he had lost all of his games except for the force against Faz and win against KJ and Gilbert when we slammed him on Total Access. And I've been getting a lot of DMs from other owners wanting us to slam him to see if they could turn their season around. So I'll let you know about that. But yeah, he's suddenly turned into the strawbacks that we expected, right? Or that we heard about. I wasn't in primer with him, so I only heard what I heard, and I think I saw him win a Super Bowl on one of the streams. But he has picked up the pace. He's got wins over Paulie, the win over Dan, probably a force. He's got a big win over Gutta, killed him. He did lose to Fig. I don't know about that one. So I'll skip over it, but he beat Monty and he most recently beat RD. And RD, that was 34-31, but RD's tweet said this game wasn't as close as the score says. So I didn't see that one. But hey, he's looking strong. He's got Biz, and he's got a big game against U Prime, trying to end the undefeated streak. I think he's getting hot at the right time. I've played him 4 times. I think I beat him every single one of them, but they have all been really close games. And when you play someone, you can tell they're a good player. He's a good player. He's got it on both sides of the ball. I think he's starting to come into his own with this team. It's hard to pick up a team that you didn't get to mold. So I think he's arrived. I don't think this is going to be his season. I think he's going to fall short somewhere. But he's on my radar next cycle as a guy to watch.
Palmer, what do you think?
Yeah, so I played him in Primer, and I thought he was pretty good. He obviously made Primer Super Bowls, really good down there, but we've seen necessarily success down there doesn't always translate to up here. And he had a slow start, I thought, coming up here. Regardless of, you don't know the league, you don't know the players or your team. some of the losses that he had were pretty bad, um, and he's really turned it around this season. And I think this could be the year. Now, the win against Monty and the win against RD, those were close games, but those are two guys that are playoff caliber teams. RD playing really well right now, so that was a really big win. I think he's gonna compete. I think he's gonna make noise in the playoffs, but I don't think he's quite arrived yet. I think, like Matt said, maybe next cycle when he has his full team fresh from the get go and he can build it the way he wants. But I do think this team is very well built for him. I watched in primer where he got rid of Jalen Hurts and he just went with a rookie and ended up getting him to superstar or X factor. The quarterback doesn't matter, which is really good if you're the Jets. And he's got that stud running back in Brees Hall. And we're seeing that he's figuring out how to play with that team. I think he's going to be dangerous in the playoffs. I just think he's going to fall short.
Yeah, I guess the definition of arrived is maybe what do you feel is arrived, maybe. But for me, when I look at him, he seemed to be incredibly humble. And I'm excited for my game against him, which I believe we're going to try to schedule for Monday. He he's like, hey, yeah, I want to play you. I want you to be unbeaten when we play, so I can end that streak. So I'm kind of excited for that game alone, so I can kind of get a feel for his power a little bit. But honestly, looking at that game against RD, he did play Dan and beat Dan, but this was after Dan benched Josh Allen. Yeah, I think that we're going to see some flashes, and I think we're going to see a playoff win. Do I think he's going to win a Super Bowl this year? Probably not, but it's definitely going to be like, okay, this is coming. Like sometimes when you watch an NFL rookie quarterback and, okay, maybe the guy doesn't make the playoffs, maybe the guy doesn't throw for 4,000 yards as a rookie, but you're like, okay, this guy's going to be good. Like, watch out for him. That's what I think we're going to see with Straw Blacks. We're already seeing it this season. We're going to see it in the playoffs. Watch out is all I'm saying. I'm starting to buy in. I wasn't buying in at first. I think the stock is rising though, and I'm excited to play him. Oh, that's all.
I think his comp is Dom.
Yeah.
From playing him, I think that's where he's at. Is he's right there, just maybe just shy of the Super Bowl, or maybe a favorite to get there eventually. But I think that's his comp. I don't think he's quite the Faz QP or U level, but I could see him in like that Dom tier.
Yeah, I think the game against Prime's going to say a lot. He doesn't need to win it, in my eyes, to have arrived or whatever. But I think if it's a competitive, close game, I think, hey, Straw Blacks is on the map.
I don't know. Prime seems to struggle with guys he plays the first time. I think I won 5 in a row against him to start.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
to start Madden 21 or something. So I wouldn't make too much of the first game, but it will if he can at least keep it close. At least kind of speak to that he has kind of arrived and at least found his way.
Yeah, I'm excited for that game. I am more than I should be. Fourth down, playoffs are weeks away, and I was looking at the standings this morning, and it's a freaking cluster. I mean, in the NFC and in the AFC a little bit. Who's in? Is there anybody you guys are watching that you're like, okay, this guy's on the fringe and he's going to make it for sure, or this guy is going to be out for sure? Matt, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so in the AFC, I think it's pretty set. You've got Prime, Dump, Noel, RD, myself, Straw, and Clink. I think Clink is probably the one that's at risk here, and that's obvious. He's the only one with 5 losses, with Noel right behind, or Colt, what, same thing, yeah, right behind him with 6 losses. And then you got Monty and Dan at 7 losses. The thing with Clink is, though, he's got a pretty tough schedule. He's got Dump right now, which he did beat the first game, and then he's got Doink, and then he's got Woods, and he's got RD. That's a pretty tough schedule. So I think Monty has the outside shot here in the AFC. I don't think Dan really wants to make it, and I know he's been out of the country. Colt, I just don't see it. So I think in the AFC it's all set, but I think it's going to come down to Clink versus Monty. The NFC, again, is just an absolute cluster. I think Meats is going to make it. Meats has had a pretty good cycle for Meats. I think Gutta would be the next obvious choice sitting in that 7 seed, but he's got Dan, who is back apparently. He's got QP, he's got Faz. So those are 3 games he could definitely lose. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to pick, it's the last season, so what the hell. Tiny Titan is going to make the playoffs as the 7 seed in the NFC. He's going to knock off Doink his next game. He's going to beat KJ. He's going to lose to Rowan, but then he's going to beat Fig and lose to Doink and in the finale, but it's going to be enough to get in. So Gutta out, Tiny in.
Wow. Bomber?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the same one in the AFC. Clink being the kind of wild card. I think 1 through 6 is pretty much set. You got Prime, Dump, Noel, RD, Matt, and Straw Blacks. I think that 1 through 6 is pretty much set. I think the 7th seed, I'm actually gonna give it to Monty. I know he's 2 games back of Clink, but Clink has a baby on the way too. And
True.
depending when that comes, and if he takes another vacation or any more traveling, I could see him dropping a couple games. He's already got a tough schedule, and I think Monty kind of sneaks in there. He's played really well. He just hasn't been able to get over the top on these last few games. But I think as long as he keeps his head on straight, I think he might be all right, and he can sneak in ahead of Clink. As far as the NFC, I think it depends on what AJ does. AJ's got this vacation he just left on. He handed QP a win, so that's going to drop him to 8-5. And now you're talking about one win or a 1 game difference between him, Meats, Gutta, Biz, Tiny, like you said, and Paulie. And I think AJ may end up out of the playoffs here. He doesn't have the easiest way going forward. You're talking about playing QP. Well, he's given that one out, but playing Meats, playing Woods, and then playing Noel, and maybe 2 of those games being on some unreliable internet, so maybe some lag issues. I think AJ is going to be the one that's the odd man out, and I'm going to go with Biz. I think Biz sneaks in. He's played really well, and he's done really well in his fair sims. So I think he's got a chance to sneak in there.
Yeah, no, I feel the same about the AFC. I do think Clinky's going to get in. I think that Monty's just. I think he might be broken now after that dump game, to tell you the truth. In the NFC, I'm going to throw it out here. And just an alert. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Faz is 8-5 right now. He has not been crisp in his games he has played, and he has not. He does not seem dialed in. He's got QP next. He's got RD after that. He's got Gutta, who he played already in an actual game and lost by 2 scores to. And then he has Paulie, who always plays him relatively well and close. There's a chance Faz could miss the playoffs. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm going to give it about a higher than normal. I'm going to give it about a 30% chance Faz misses the playoffs. So that's something to keep an eye on. The only thing, I think he could drop one or two, I think he could probably drop 2 games of his last few. And that puts him at 7 losses. The problem is the other guys are all at 6 losses. So
Yeah.
these other guys, somebody else is probably going to lose a game and get him in. But Faz doesn't have a whole lot of margin for error here, as he hasn't been super crisp and he's playing guys who are very good. I do think that Meats makes it. I think that AJ makes it. I think the standings how they are probably how they stay. To tell you the truth, maybe some of these guys move around a little bit, but I think how the top 7 are. That's how it's going to stay.
Yeah, Prime. I like the Faz pick. I was actually about to go there myself when I was looking at things. I think Faz is a little bit broken from that Super Bowl too.
Yeah.
Just in the way he handled it, I think that just kind of shattered him a little bit. But like you said, he's at 8-5. He's played like 4 games, and he's still first in his division. So I couldn't make it, but I like the boldness of the claim for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely broke.
Yeah, I think he still wins the division. There's just nobody in that division that I think is going to win.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an AFC East
10
type of
games.
division or something where it's like, okay, you got Straw, you got Matt or somebody, then yeah.
Yeah.
Problem is, Paulie's been just fell off this year and so on. Let's move on. Extra point time. Matt, you got a top 5 for us?
Yeah, so I was gonna do the top 5 teams in the SML, but you know Bomber does a great job with the whole showing the weekly scheduling, but I didn't want to go through and try to figure out force wins and try and get an accurate ranking. So I thought about current events. 4th of July's passed, but then I thought, you know what? We just had a birthday in the SML. One of the OGs, if you will, Mike FML, and I know Prime, you put out a great TikTok celebrating his birthday. So I thought, well, let's rank something that Mike would like, and I thought, maybe hand sanitizers, but I can't think of 5. I thought Panera Bread. Food options. I can't think of 5. So I went with my top 5 wrestlers. I used to be a big wrestling guy when I was a kid. And,
I like it.
So, yeah. So I think NYT and Mike are going to wipe the Cheetos off on their pants and rush to the keyboard and critique this list. But at number 5, we've got Stone Cold Steve Austin. In ring, maybe he's not in the top 5, and I'm sure Mike will tell me. But he came in a time where WWE or F was really struggling against WCW, and the Attitude Era. Stone Cold was, I think he and The Rock really saved the WWE, and I thought he was great in the ring. When you hear that glass shatter today, if you're at a restaurant, and you hear the glass shatter. I mean, you're going to freak out, right? No matter where you are. And then at number four, we've got the Undertaker. Same thing. You hear that bell ring, the lights go out. I mean, there's nothing better. The longevity of the Undertaker, the streak, the what he did after the streak. He's one of the best, and he's one of the best workers. That thing where he walked across the ropes. I mean, the agility for someone that size and the balance and everything is pretty impressive. At number three, I've got Bret Hart. Hated this guy when I was growing up. He always won. I hated the cockiness. I hate Canada. He just everything about him I didn't like. So, but hey, as an in-ring performer, he might be the best technical wrestler, in-ring wrestler ever. Number two. And number one and number two are tough for me. I went Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania, showstopper. I mean, Shawn Michaels, as a career, the guy is as good as it gets. I would have a hard time believing anyone would argue with this top two, but at number two, I went Shawn Michaels. And then at number one, I went Ric Flair. I think it's very tough to argue against it. Really good in the ring, cut the best promos that probably ever existed. The woo chant. Ric Flair's, I feel like he's got to be number one on pretty much everyone's list, but I'm excited to hear what both Mikes, Mike FML and NYT, have to say about the list.
Wow, good list. A good list. I don't watch much wrestling, but hey, I met Stone Cold Steve Austin when I was like 5 years old. Big dude.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
I stopped watching wrestling at about 12, but any list that doesn't have Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior on it, I can't get behind.
What about John Cena?
No.
He's that actor, right?
Yeah, I think he's that actor. Good stuff. Well, guys, that's SML Total Access. Bomber, we appreciate you coming on. Was this your first time or second time? I forget.
This was first time.
First time. Wow, holy crap. Well, Bomber's inaugural SML Total Access. Who knows? Maybe he'll be back again sometime.
Yeah, it's nice having someone show up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Bomber, thanks for coming on. Real quick, Bomber, you winning the number one seed?
No, probably not.
Well, you heard it there first from Bomber. Such modesty. All right, guys. We appreciate you listening. Have a great rest of your day.